think with this start, let me introduce our guest of honor today, our chief guest, Mr. Shailesh Haribhakti. Actually, he needs no introduction. Actually, he's a star in his own self. He has been with us earlier, and I'm really grateful that he has decided to come back again to help us restart our physical SETU. He was the guest speaker about 2 years back, sir? I think almost 3 years back. Actually, COVID ka time mein nikal hi deta hu main. So 3 years back, so when we started SETU almost, so at that time he was here, and he spoke about some of the very fantastic things at that time, which are now becoming a reality. And those things which were spoken as a concept are real in front of us now, and he's going to speak about some more fascinating stuff today on metaverses and other things which are becoming real, and how these things are being adopted by large corporations in India and abroad, and how we can take advantage of this for our growth and sustainability. Mr. Haribhakti is on the board of many companies, large corporations. He has been the chairman of the board of Future Group and many such organizations. And if you really want to know about it, just type Google Shailesh Haribhakti and you will know the world. Today that's very easy. But thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. I would request you please come take the stage and enlighten us with your knowledge and whatever you think we should be taking as our future in the world that we are entering now. Thank you, sir. Please come.
Good morning again. It was an absolutely exceptional experience to go through that meditation, Rohit, and also the prayer. It was really very calming and soothing. So what were the defining characteristics of the pandemic? So very important to realize that there was a complete erosion of social cohesion during COVID. We simply could not meet each other. We were all operating in the Zoom world. Didn't see each other, the expressions, the connection, eye to eye. So important that eyes must meet in order to have that connection. Also very important that the only thing that connects us as human beings, the only thing, is air. Think about it. Because we are breathing the same air. That's our connect with each other. We were all isolated. So there was no social cohesion. So that was a huge problem in the COVID era. Then there was the livelihood crisis. People had gotten so used to the idea of having to earn a living wage, go to an office, work 9 to 5, and earn a living. All those ideas went out the door. Livelihood crisis happened. Most important crisis was mental health deterioration. There has never been a period in human history where mental health issues rose to the extent they rose during COVID. It is a full-blown human pandemic, which is today, those scars are just beginning to be seen and healed when we had this war in Ukraine. It's a terrible situation. But amongst all this, we also had the International Panel on Climate Change warning us, and I'll read this one warning. Any further delay in concerted global action on climate change will miss a brief and rapidly closing window to secure a livable future. These are words which have just been put in public domain this year in 2022 by the IPCC, giving us a warning that we are in breach of 1.5 degrees for sure. We may even be in breach of 2.0 degrees Celsius. How did this happen? This happened because for the first few million years of our history on earth, we simply engaged in barter. That's all we did. Big revolution was moving from being hunter-gatherers to established agriculture. That was phenomenally powerful, big change. Then the 200 years of the Industrial Revolution simply changed the way we used up our planet. As a result of that, we destroyed biodiversity at a rate that was unacceptable to planet Earth. Because planet Earth survives because of all the interactions between biodiverse species, millions of species. We have killed them simply by polluting the air, polluting the water, and polluting the commons. That is what we achieved. Until people began to sit up. In 2015, we had for the first time a global agreement on establishing the 17 SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. Today, that is what defines sustainability. What has that taken as a new dimension? So now we have come to today. We trace the history of how we got to that polluted situation. We have established the SDGs. Whole world is talking about ESG, right? All of you are speaking about how do we get on to environmental stewardship, social responsibility, and purposeful governance. Something that Rohit shared with me just before our interaction. Everybody wants to be on purpose. And that is why this whole movement of ESG has got established. That's the present. Now, where are we going? And what is the future and how is it playing out for us? Let us, for a minute, deeply consider that. So let me just rattle out the 5 or 7 converging technologies which are transforming our world as we speak. Okay, 3D printing. We had heard of 3D printing in terms of screws, bolts, machines, small parts, automobile components, all of that, right? But today, you can construct in 7 hours a full-blown home 3D printed. 7 hours. You have a huge printer, it goes out and in 7 hours it just constructs a one-bedroom tailor-made home tailored to your own needs. It's a revolution which is happening. In one part of southwest Mexico, they are experimenting with this 3D printed homes at scale. So just imagine, to have the same home for everybody is so unfair. Somebody might have some handicap, somebody cannot climb the stairs, somebody cannot see properly. There's so many different variabilities in human beings. Each one of us is unique. You can tailor-make. The design can be embedded into the printer and you can have a tailor-made home finished in 7 days. So just imagine the transformation in all aspects of our life. Then what happened is that it became impossible for us during COVID to travel, right? Education. How do you educate children? How do you give them the experiences which will actually get embedded in themselves and become the basis of their fresh thinking. So you needed virtual reality. So if you, I don't know whether too many of these have started in India, but I'm sure somewhere or the other it has started. That you create the virtual reality. So in Dubai, they have something which enables you to jump from the Burj Khalifa's top and experience the whole journey downward in virtual reality. They've recreated that experience. But now think about transferring that experience to all education. Think about transferring it to learning about the Egyptian pyramids. Imagine your child or you yourself, I would love to do it, walk inside the pyramid and see it from all aspects. That is creating virtual reality. Now you're left to your imagination to create whatever reality you wish. So then people will create all kinds of realities. Innovation and your imagination are the only constraints. Then there is what is called augmented reality, which is augmenting the actual thing that is right now here. So if I wanted to convert this room into augmented reality, then I would make it visible to somebody in California to be part of this whole group virtually. Pretty much like Zoom, but the experience in the metaverse is 4-dimensional. It is not just 3-dimensional as we have it here. So you have a sense of time, which is the 4th dimension, and you have space, and you have distance, and you have all of the rest that we are seeing today. So that's augmented reality. And if you go into the metaverse, I went into a metaverse which was created for a community just like yours about a month ago. And what did I do? There was an avatar of myself in that space which carried my identity. So I had a card. So I had to photograph myself, put my name, put my little description of who I am, and that became my calling card. And then I was able to exchange cards with all other avatars of all other people from the community, from all over the world, just by touching them virtually in the metaverse. So the entire interaction was surreal. And when I came out of it, it was impossible for me to accept the current reality for a while. Because you're so transported into that whole experience of 4 dimensions that you simply get carried away. And that's the future that is coming for education, for healthcare. Just imagine, you are sick in California. Your only trusted doctor is in Mumbai. How do you get that treatment? The only way is through VR, AR. Through a cloud-based upload of your data, downloadability here, fully without any lack of transmission, and you get the virtual experience of healthcare. Healthcare will be transformed, education will be transformed through VR, AR, and this mixed reality, which is a combination of virtual reality and augmented reality. So there's AR, VR, MR, which is creating what Facebook is calling the metaverse. The metaverse enables you to get in with a very simple Oculus lens today. But I invested in an Oculus, and it's a little bit heavy. It doesn't enable you to feel things in the way that we are experiencing it today. So what Google has come up with is exactly this, chashma. Little heavy, with a little bit of embedding, to enable you to get into this AR, VR, metaverse environment. All the big boys of technology in the world, Google, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, of course, has changed its name to Meta, because they believe that our interactions will happen in that virtual world, and they will be far more efficient, because they will be without latency, without error, fully driven by data, enabled by technology, and available to you as an experience right now, right here, in 4 dimensions. Just imagine. The learning of this seminar converted into a VR, AR metaverse, you can imagine the difference it can make just by the description that I've given you. And it's now accessible to everybody. My metaverse experience I took sitting on my iPad in my own office. So it's not as if you need too much drama getting into the metaverse. And there are companies in the world today. One of them is called Vatom, V-A-T-O-M, which actually helps you to create your personalized metaverse. And there are going to be competitors of Vatom, which will all enable you to create your own metaverse. So let's say, why would you need a metaverse? Right? You want to have a banking transaction. I want to have with Mr. Garodia. Your name is Mr. Garodia, right? I want to have a banking transaction with him. So I want to get into a metaverse with him. I want to have a virtual conversation. I want to see his office. I want to see everything. He creates his metaverse. I enter there as an avatar. He interacts with my avatar. He sends his avatar into the space. We interact. We exchange cards. We exchange information. And we close our transaction. So efficient, not moving out of where you are. Simply off your devices. That is what the world is beginning to create as new infrastructure. It's a completely new infrastructure. So what is the form that metaverse we recognize today? We recognize it in terms of cryptocurrencies. What is the connection between cryptocurrency and metaverse? You may ask. Have you ever touched a Bitcoin? Can you ever touch a Bitcoin? You can't. Can you touch any cryptocurrency? No. Can you touch any NFT, a non-fungible token? So everything that you are, the entire physical reality of yourself is being converted into tokens which are non-fungible. You can also have fungible tokens. The CBDC, which is the central bank digital currency, has an ability to transform from a digital currency to a physical currency, to a fiat currency, and back and forth. For that, you need an exchange, right? You need somebody who will take your Bitcoin and give you dollars, or take your dollar and give you Bitcoin. So you need that exchange. But what the world has discovered is through the blockchain. So I'm just throwing in these new technology words, but they are very simple ideas. What is a blockchain? It's an open ledger system. You have a ledger, everybody is familiar with a ledger, right? It has 2 sides, debit, credit, left, right, whatever you want to call it, you define it, it becomes the definition of the ledger. What is Bitcoin? It has to be mined by using electricity, right? There's a small equipment which the miner, most of the miners today are in extremely cold locations. So they all moved to Iceland, they moved to Greenland, they moved to all the northern parts of the world, because there is massive heat that gets generated in the mining process. Because what you're doing is you're doing very high level of encryption. So you're converting every physical notion into an encrypted representation of that physical reality. So it becomes impossible to hack it and take it away. That's the whole idea of mining. Why do people say that mining mein bahut electricity jata hai? Tesla said, first they accepted Bitcoin and said we will accept money in terms of Bitcoin for Tesla. Then Elon Musk said, nahi, I won't do it. One day he put out a public notice saying that I'll accept the Dogecoin, which is a smaller cryptocurrency. Within 15 days he said, so Dogecoin went up. And the minute he said, I'm not going to accept it, the Dogecoin collapsed. Now what he has said, and this is very important, that the moment you bring mining into the reality of 50% renewable energy consumption, I will accept Bitcoin or any other currency which defines that carbon footprint of 50% renewable. Then I will accept the coin. I'll accept the digital money. But you get the thought that the blockchain makes all of this trustworthy, reliable, immutable. Once you enter something into that ledger, you can't remove it. You can't change it. It's not like what you do today. You pass journal entries and you change things and you make adjustments in your accounts. You do all of that at the end of the year, right? Familiar sounds? All that will be stopped. Because the blockchain makes your transaction immutable. You can't change it. It's fully trustworthy. It's instantaneous. It's fully transparent. Because everybody who's authorized to see it can see it. And it is not hackable because the level of encryption is so high that it will take a quantum computer to hack into the Bitcoin. I think one instance of hacking of the Bitcoin has been reported, but it was very quickly discovered. So somebody did accumulate that quantum of compute power to hack into a highly encrypted digital coin. So it is not 100%, nothing is 100% free of risk. But and then you look at cash, compare that Bitcoin with all of these characteristics to cash. Most dangerous thing to touch. Anybody can steal it, anybody can take it away, it can get lost, the cost of dealing with physical cash is 6x the cost of dealing with digital money today. And that distance will grow. The only difference is that renewable energy is not yet reached to the green hydrogen level of renewable energy, which will enable us to create, within 10 years, this is Reliance's promise, within 10 years, within 1 decade, for 1 kilo of green energy, it'll cost you $1. So the cost of energy will become next to zero and will become abundant. That's the other idea that we all must capture, the idea of abundance. What all of these converging technologies are doing is it is creating abundance, and it is creating the ability to accelerate our growth. Today, I don't like to talk about anything less than 10x growth. Timeline will change depending on what your business is, what your model is. But that's what is being empowered. So we have talked about 3D printing, we've talked about artificial intelligence, because if you want to do encryption and you want to do, you're not a coder sitting in Iceland or Greenland. Anybody can become a miner. It just needs you, it needs their equipment, it needs energy. There's an argument which says that let nuclear power, which is clean power, be utilized for mining bitcoins. Because the value that you derive from it will offset the protection costs that you need to make nuclear safe. That's an argument that the world is beginning to hear today. And there is an amazing quantity of unutilized nuclear energy. Japan just closed down all its nuclear establishment. Germany promised to do that. France foolishly decided to bring it down, and they are in deep mess. All of them became dependent on Russia. And this war is all about that. But energy is the big arena where all transformations are happening. Big arena. So that's the other technology. Then VR, AR, MR, blockchain, metaverse, physical reality being described digitally. All of this is creating your new world of education, of healthcare, and all of that. But let's look at practical applications. During COVID, in Bali, there were hungry elephants who were going to die because there was nobody to feed them. And there were no tourists coming there to pay the ticket which bought their food. That was the whole business model. You would have tourists, they would come in, pay the ticket, and the elephants would get fed. That stopped. No tourists. So they created tokens for permitting these hungry elephants to be fed. And they were sold on the Bitcoin exchanges. So there's what is called open space, which is the Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency to fiat currency or crypto to crypto exchange, which enabled people to make their contributions, which they would have otherwise sort of used if they had gone and visited Bali, right? The elephants were fed and they survived. 300 elephants would have died if it was not for technology and NFTs and the metaverse. Every company that I sit on the board of, listed company, is wanting to go into blockchain and into robotic process automation. Because if you're blockchain, then you can't do your auditing after the year is over. You have to do the auditing as your transactions are happening. So you have online, real-time, continuous auditing, full transparency, full trust in what comes out. But now look at the last thing I want to put in your mind frame. We are already at 8 o'clock. Is movement from one capital to 6 capitals. How many of you have heard of integrated reporting? Anybody? Okay. All of you deal with financial capital, right? What's your wealth? What's your asset? All of that, you know what to do. That's your balance sheet, right? But now that's not sufficient. The world is moving to the paradigm of having 6 capitals being reported on. So which are the 5 other capitals? One is your environmental capital. What is your carbon footprint? So as we speak, every product that you can buy, a pen, a phone, a marker, a projector, everything, is being converted into its carbon equivalent. How much carbon has been expended and moved into the atmosphere as a result of bringing this product into existence, right? So you can track that if I buy this pen, what is my carbon footprint? enhanced, or that phone, or whatever else, your clothes, whatever. So, then you can think of sustainable procurement. And then you can think of whether you have offset all the carbon that you have bought. Correct? If you have bought this much carbon, then you have to do actions which will negate that carbon. Right? So how do you do it? By moving your energy use to renewable. So you will transition, or you will reduce your energy, or you will go into circular economy, create waste from wealth. You will do many of these things. All of this will define your environmental capital. That will be reported in India by the 1,000 topmost companies beginning this year. So it is not far away. India is the first country in the world which has made it mandatory next year onwards for the top 1,000 companies in India to report on BRSR. But that top company, let's say it's Asian Paints, will not be able to report its BRSR until its entire supply chain reports on BRSR. So every person who is supplying to Asian Paints will have to start creating its environmental footprint. So just imagine the new way in which we'll be thinking about our world. We are going to get conscious, great word that again Rohit used. We're going to get conscious about what carbon footprint we are generating and how can we offset it. We can offset it by planting trees, we can offset it by all the rest of the things we talked about. But there is a plus and a minus, and you need to get to net zero. What is the world and all its courts tracking? Whether you are getting to net zero, which you have promised, by the time that you have promised. That's the whole new space for action for all of us. So that's the first capital. Second is human capital. Have you enhanced the value of your human resources, or have you diminished them? Have you kept them safe? Do they feel secure working in an environment which is diversified? Is their health and safety taken care of? Are human rights actually being respected? Human capital. Third dimension of capital. Brand capital. What is it that makes you valuable? It is the fact that your brand promises something and delivers it. Then the brand keeps rising. The number one respected brand in IT is Accenture, not Apple. The brand promise of Accenture is so solid and it delivers so much, and they curate it and they enhance it. And all of us would gain immensely from enhancing our brand capital. So there is a whole technology which you have to deploy to bring your brand capital. That also has reputation involved, it has all of this. Then there is what is called the physical capital. So you have all these assets, right? Because you've been used to manufacturing at scale. On another day, you should discuss how manufacturing is going to be done on your palm top in 2040. In 2040, all the large-scale manufacturing in the world will turn to nanotechnology-driven palm top, built to one at a time scale, not mass-produced, but absolutely tailor-made to what you want. Like the home which I told you, 3D printed home. You make it in scale of 1, mass-produced, but in scale of 1 to meet the demand. So the physical assets need to be measured because they are the receptacle of your carbon emission, your other GHG gas emissions, your pollution, your water discharge, your whatever else. So now you need to think of, and the last one is, of course, your intellectual capital. Very important. Ultimately, these capitals, these 5 capitals, other than the financial capital, will start changing your financial capital. And they will interact with each other in a way that you start becoming an integrated thinker. So you think of innovation, collaboration, doing things differently, you start doing all of these things, you become conscious of the environment, conscious of the human resources, the physical assets, and then your financial assets, which would by then be blockchained. And you would have fully clean, reliable, trustworthy, audited accounts on 1st April for the period ended 31st March. No latency, no delay. We are working towards this at L&T Finance, for example. I've told them that your task is that within, I did this in Cisco many years ago. Cisco's accounts were out within 1 week of the end of the year. So L&T Finance target is to finish everything 7 days from end of close and then bring it down to 5 days, 4 days, 3 days, over a period of time, 1 day. Instantaneous closure every day. That's the new world for you. It looks daunting, but it creates huge facility for all of us.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. It was brilliant. So, I think this one thing that we discussed today about being, those 6 things are amazing. I think we all are going to be mandated to use it. However, it is also important that we just don't do it because it is mandatory. We need to be conscious about it. And that's the future of the world. We don't have to build businesses. We have to build conscious businesses. We used to use this word called a spiritual business leadership. But I think it is more important to understand conscious business leadership, because that's what actually it meant. That anything that I do only for me has no benefit. It has to be for all, everybody, the complete supply chain, everybody. All right, so I would request Mr. Haribhakti to come once again. I'm so sorry I had to ask you to go. So thank you very much for being here, and it's such an honor to have you as our advisor all the time. Thank you very much, sir. And thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes. Sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.